Wonder Woman 1984 is a treat for all ages, but there are many aspects of it that only adult viewers grasp. From the film's most obscure references to its uncomfortable moments, these are all the things only adults notice in Wonder Woman 1984. As the title implies, Wonder Woman 1984 picks up with Diana in the midst of one of Hollywood's favorite decades to portray, the 1980s. There's a lot to love about the 80s, from the decade's awesome music to its gleaming video stores. And anyone who lived through the 1980s will recognize many real details from that time scattered throughout the set of Wonder Woman 1984. Sparked by the public's obsession with fitness, people everywhere were donning spandex and leg warmers. In its earliest shots of people on the street of DC, Wonder Woman 1984 offers a number of examples of this look. Speaking of fashion, no 80s setting would be complete with ridiculously over-the-top parachute pants and a whole lot of metallic fabric. Steve Trevor shows off a few of these looks when he and Diana attempt to find him an era-appropriate look. Even the crosswalk signs in Wonder Woman 1984 are accurate to the time period. Before today's modern LEDs were installed in the early 2000s, the signage did indeed display the words "Walk, don't walk," rather than the current symbols representing a person in mid-stride. Wonder Woman 1984 gets a whole lot right about the 1980s, but there is still one important plot detail that it manages to get majorly wrong. This error can be spotted at the beginning of Max Lord's big finale speech. After successfully taking over the world's broadcasting signals using secret government tech, Lord is able to splash his face across the screens of unwitting bystanders everywhere. No matter where Diana turns, his face is visible, urging the people of the world to wish for what they want and see their wildest dreams come true. The only problem with this supervillainous scheme is that those screens broadcasting Lord's face include television and computer displays. This scene takes place decades before the internet or streaming services became publicly available. In fact, the concept of a home computer was considered incredibly novel and exotic at the time, as Apple had just started selling their first generation of Macintosh computers that January. This sort of all-encompassing broadcast wasn't just impossible at the time, it was basically unthinkable.
This is a highly sophisticated office computer.
That this blooper wasn't caught by the production team prior to release just goes to show how easy it is to take technology for granted. Adults can't help but roll their eyes when one of Max Lord's last business investors, Simon Stagg, threatens to report him to the Federal Trade Commission if Max doesn't return his investment money within 48 hours. This sort of race-against-the-clock trope is favored by film and television producers because it provides a sense of urgency to the plot without being too restrictive. The 48-hour timeline is a particularly popular choice.
You have 48 hours starting on my mark.
You have 48 hours to get my money?
In 48 hours.
You have 20 seconds.
You have 48 hours.
The 1982 action comedy movie 48 Hours, starring Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy, literally calls itself out for using this cliché in its very title. We can't blame the filmmakers for using this reliable plot point, but it does get repetitive. Younger viewers may find Max Lord's conflict engaging, but more mature audiences might find it to be more than a little bit predictable. The technology Max Lord uses to take over the planet's airwaves in Wonder Woman 1984 may be the stuff of science fiction, but the parent program mentioned in the movie as its comparison was actually entirely real. The 1980s marked the height of the Cold War, when the United States and the Soviet Union were attempting to one-up each other while maintaining a public pretense of peace. Secret government programs proliferated during this era, one of which was known as the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, a missile defense system proposed by Ronald Reagan in 1983 as an attempt to render nuclear weapons obsolete. Nicknamed the Star Wars program, the SDI proposed to utilize state-of-the-art technology and weapons like lasers, satellites, and ground and space-based missile systems to neutralize incoming threats, like nuclear missiles. It was officially scrapped in 1993. Kristen Wiig does an excellent job portraying the painfully shy and awkward character of Barbara Minerva, who transforms from an introverted wallflower into the empowered apex predator known as Cheetah. However, Barbara's character arc might seem remarkably familiar to older audience members who have seen more movies. That's because Barbara's story revolves on the axis of a heavily played out trope. the one where the disregarded nerdy girl gets a makeover and suddenly transforms into a popular hottie. Just look at My Fair Lady, Grease, The Princess Diaries, and she's all that. Indeed, this plot point has been seen countless times before, and its use tends to marginalize the character in question far more than it empowers them. To put it plainly, no one is surprised to see the ugly duckling become the swan any longer, especially because the duckling is pretty much always already attractive.
Okay, now take your glasses off, let that hair down, and act like you don't know how pretty you are.
In Wonder Woman 1984, Diana unwittingly uses a coveted Dreamstone to bring her lost love Steve Trevor back from the dead. But he doesn't return in the way you'd expect. Rather than magically resurrecting his body, the Dreamstone inserts Steve Trevor's consciousness into the body of another man living near Diana in Washington, D.C. To minimize audience confusion, the handsome man, as he's credited, is shown briefly at the start of his possession. Then his likeness switches to Steve Trevor's. It's possible this was intended as some sort of metaphor about only having eyes for your true love. This is something younger audiences might be able to buy into a little more easily. But this magical body snatching comes off as more problematic than romantic for adults. Steve Trevor doesn't know who Handsome Man is and disrupts his entire life with his presence. What happens to his job, his social life, and all other aspects of his existence when he suddenly becomes Steve? Wouldn't the poor man be terrified when suddenly coming to after Steve forfeits his parasitic existence? Also, one can't help but wonder what the implications are of being intimate with someone's body when they have no presence of mind to provide consent. At the very least, it's unnerving. Wonder Woman 1984 is a superhero movie, so there are always going to be some weird physics involved. These people are superheroes after all. Can Diana lasso lightning? Sure, why not? But the film is also loaded with unrealistic depictions of physics and technology that are hard to ignore, especially for a jaded adult. For example, when Steve insists on flying a modern plane, he does so without issue, despite the massive differences between planes he flew during World War I and the modern jet he and Diana commandeer.
The way I fly, they will never find us.
And when Diana manages to make the jet magically invisible, it also simultaneously disappears from radar. But just because an object becomes invisible to the naked eye doesn't mean it also becomes invisible to radar, because the mass of the plane is still there to reflect the radar waves. Then again, she made the plane invisible, so we can't nitpick this one too much. Maybe it's all part of her invisibility magic. But there's also the fact that at high altitudes, it gets pretty hard to breathe without oxygen. That's a little harder to explain away for Human Man Steve.
Put your mask back on! That's an order, Marine! I can't breathe!
But Diana and Steve chat away unassisted, as though they're toddling down the highway, rather than speeding through the air thousands of feet but hundreds of miles an hour. Likewise, the final battle between Wonder Woman and Cheetah defies the rules of electricity to the point of silliness. The two women are impervious to thousands of volts of electricity in ways that can only be explained with comic book logic. And again, this is a comic book movie, so that's fair game. Then suddenly, those excuses stop mattering at all when the live wire Cheetah swings from without any apparent trouble, contacts the water she's immersed in, and becomes the source of her defeat. Professional wrestling is beloved by people of all ages, but younger fans likely missed a real-life reference planted in the midst of Wonder Woman 1984. While visiting the home of a man with important information regarding the Dreamstone, Diana examines a magazine lying near his front door. It's the August 1984 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, featuring Jerry the King Lawler on the front cover. As it turns out, this particular issue really does exist, and it really was in print at the time. This was excitedly pointed out by Lawler himself on Twitter, after Stuart Schreck of DC Comics brought it to his attention. It might seem random to feature a pro wrestling-themed magazine in Wonder Woman 1984, but at the time, sports entertainment had reached a pinnacle of unparalleled popularity. The 1980s were a huge decade for professional wrestling in particular, to the point that it is often referred to as the sport's golden age. Offering a nod to this aspect of the decade is something many grown-up viewers of Wonder Woman 1984 no doubt appreciate. In the DCEU, Asteria is a celebrated champion of the Amazons, who selflessly sacrificed herself in battle so the rest of her sisters could flee to the safety of what would become Themyscira. This fallen hero is remembered as the Golden Warrior for her courageous heart and legendary armor. To honor Asteria, a golden statue of her likeness was erected in Themyscira's Colosseum. The Amazonian athletic competition shown in the beginning of the film is also held as a way to remember and reflect upon Asteria's legacy. In real real life, Asteria was a name given to several prominent figures in Greek mythology, meaning starry one. Interestingly, this particular strand of mythology portrays Asteria as eventually transforming into an island to escape Zeus's advances. Adult viewers will pick up on how reminiscent this is of her origin story regarding the island of Themyscira, and how it echoes the Amazons' desires to separate themselves from the world of men. Culture and technology may have changed, but tales of heroes and villains remain timeless. Considering she fell in battle and was never heard from again, the Amazons naturally assumed that Asteria died defending them. This assumption was reinforced when Diana went on a mission to find the fallen warrior and was only able to track down Asteria's golden eagle armor, which she winds up using in her final face-off against Cheetah and Max Lord. However, Wonder Woman 1984's mid-credit scene reveals that Asteria is very much alive, secretly living among normal humans and saving the occasional baby when the opportunity presents itself. Although younger viewers may not recognize the stunning brunette playing Asteria in this scene, adults undoubtedly will. Carter made a name for herself playing Diana Prince on the classic Wonder Woman television series, which originally aired on ABC and CBS from 1975 to 1979. Despite the fact that she's been portraying Amazon warriors for quite some time, Carter still manages to dazzle new viewers in 2020 and beyond, just as she did all the way back in the 70s. It will be interesting to see what DC has planned for the iconic actress. Hopefully, there's more to come for her new character beyond this brief, if thrilling, appearance. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.